It Takes Two. Amy Eiler, JJ Gordon here on the Mighty 790 KFGO, and we invite you to join us on this Giving Hearts Day. We are oot and a boot on IT2, and we find ourselves in Moorhead at the Moorhead American Legion with the North Dakota Minnesota Veterans Honor Flight, and we invite you to come on over, have a donut. I grabbed a cup of coffee. JJ grabbed a Diet Coke. Make yourself at home and say hello to all the folks today as we hang out here with the Veterans Honor Flight. And, of course, you can make a donation when you stop by. You can make a donation online. I know you guys have heard a million times by now on KFGO how you're going to give on Giving Hearts Day. So you know all of that. We're going to skip that stuff because we know that you're already familiar with where to go and how to do it. And there's a good chance you did it before. I don't have the exact number of where we're at this point. When I looked earlier today, was it 14?
I mean, we were cooking along, that's for sure.
Yeah, we are cooking along, that's for sure.
And Aim, before the tears dry, I want to introduce Luann McDonald. Luann, you've been with the Honor Flight now for what seems like forever. You've been on trip after trip. Can we tell people what just happened here at the Moorhead American Legion?
Well, the Legion Riders just presented us a check for $14,500, and the VFW in Moorhead Dilworth presented us with $5,000.
Wow.
So that's $20,000.
$20,000 in just a moment. And they added, they're dressing a soldier here.
They have a silhouette here with different levels. And as each level goes up, you see more and more of the fatigues.
I can't believe that now we are not even to the noon hour. And you've hit $120,000 today.
That is unbelievable.
Yes.
And let's talk about why this year getting to your match is so incredibly important, because you guys made a pretty major announcement recently.
We did. We are taking in September. We have a flight leaving in May. And then in September, we have 2 planes leaving at the same day. Just an hour apart.
So have you ever done 2 flights on the same trip?
No, we have not. So this is like kind of new for us. So we need $267,000 per trip. So yes, it's very important. So we can get our. We have 783 veterans on our waiting list right now, and we would like to get them down.
Yeah. So the Honor Flight, I imagine there might be someone who is tuning in right now saying, I don't even know what you guys are talking about. And I'm glad you're here. Let's tell you about it. This is an opportunity to give back to those veterans who sacrificed so much, to bring them to Washington, D.C., to give them an experience of a lifetime where you take them to the memorials that were built in their honor. You take them around Washington, D.C. to see Arlington Cemetery. You have banquets for them where they receive accolades and entertainment. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on, but it is an experience of a lifetime. We've heard time after time from veterans who have been on this Honor Flight. Luann, what was your sort of calling into the Veterans Honor Flight work?
Well, I've worked at the VA for many, many years, and so veterans.
Oh my gosh! All of you started the VA. I mean, I love that.
Well,
it's just in your blood.
Started when I was 20. So working with veterans have been my life. You
know?
And my father and son-in-law and my father-in-law and my brother were all in the service. And so being a community volunteer for my kids, finally this came up. I'm like, it's something I love to do.
Yep.
I love hearing their stories and what they went through, in the Korean War, in the Vietnam War. And it's a life-changing trip for everybody.
Yeah. It's interesting because, so Amy and I both in 2023 went on an Honor Flight. Amy last spring, myself last fall. And what's amazing is the connections that are made just within the people on your bus, in your Honor Flight trip. There are people who will say, gosh, I never talked about my service. And it's because I didn't think anyone would understand. And now I found my people. I found my group who can understand, and I can have these conversations and I can reminisce. They were all talking about their first round of vaccinations the first morning, and one guy's like, I took both of them in this arm, and one guy's like, I took one in each butt cheek. And they had just this amazing, back and forth.
Camaraderie, the relatability to them. And this will be my 15th trip, so I've gone on 14 trips.
Holy moly.
So you think, I'm a bus captain, so you think, okay, 31, 32 veterans on each of my buses. Those are many families that we've had.
Yeah.
And you really get close to them after 3 days.
Okay.
You do. And
miss
it's just, it's goosebumpy when you're sitting beside this veteran and you're just trying to help the experience along. And then they start telling you the stories and you're like, I am sitting next to a hero. I mean, it just gives you chills, the things that these gentlemen have been through. And, I guess I encourage, if you're listening and you haven't gotten on that waiting list, to do it, because you guys are taking that waiting list seriously. And I think sometimes we get bogged down with the waiting list is too long. This trip is for someone else. We shouldn't, it shouldn't be me. It should be it should be you. If you're a veteran and you're listening, you guys want them on that waiting list. You want to know they're out there.
We do. It keeps us going. So we have a new website that they can apply online too.
Oh, okay.
Which is even faster and easier to go. So that's on our website.
What's the website?
It's www.veteranshonorflight.ndmn.org.
If you just Google Veterans Honor Flight of NDMN, North Dakota, Minnesota, you're going to find it. Don't worry. It's going to be right at the top. If it's too much for you to type into I go for the Google every time because I'm like, I don't trust myself typing or spelling it right into the browser at the top. So if you're looking for that. And then also Giving Hearts Day. This is your opportunity to make your dollar go even further with the Veterans Honor Flight.
Yes. And this is our 6th year being part of the Giving Hearts Day. And it is phenomenal to see the generosity of our community. And they can also, on our website, there is a link right to our Giving Hearts Day page.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, when you give $10 and it's $20, when you give $100 and it means $200, it is inspiring to want to give to those organizations that you love.
Yes, and there's over 600 of them, 610 this year, so there's so many wonderful.
Now, that being said, I doubt anyone is having the party that you are today, because you walk in, there are wood carvers here working, plying their craft. There are fresh out of the fryer donuts. There is breakfast. There's going to be a lunch later on. There are so many different groups. In fact, did I see the Veterans Band was over there donating as well?
Yeah.
And so nobody's having a party quite like the Honor Flight here at the Moorhead American Legion. And people are invited to stop by. This is also, I think, incredibly important. If you have someone who's served in your life, think how important this trip is. If you have a family member who's already gone on the Honor Flight, think about how many times they talked about that and how it changed their life. You have an opportunity to donate in their honor today. If you do not have someone in your life that served, all the more important that you donate to this Honor Flight. Let's put all the cards on the table. A lot of the guys on this last trip were Vietnam War veterans, and when they were welcomed back home at the Grand Forks International Airport, it was marching bands, and it was people like with balloons and cards and thank yous, and total strangers who were welcoming them back. And what I heard from them afterwards was, this was not what I got when I returned home from my service. And that's one of the reasons they didn't want to talk about it for a long time.
They didn't. And one of the gentlemen on my bus, his family members drove up from Kansas.
Really?
For the welcome home.
See?
So,
That's amazing.
From Kansas up to Grand Forks to welcome him home.
That's
from our
amazing.
Honor Flight. So, it is life-changing for every member of the family.
The Honor Flight is going to bring you stories throughout It Takes Two and the rest of the day on KFGO. Let's see. Joel had a chance to talk to Herb Volker this morning.
He was on my bus.
Arden Lemley and his daughter Christy are going to be on with us. We've got Dwayne Sarge Preston, who's going to be on. So we've got all the stories to tell you. The Veterans Honor Flight of North Dakota, Minnesota. I got the privilege of going last fall. Amy went last spring. And on the line with us right now is a guy who's become like a good friend of mine, Dwayne Preston, a.k.a. Sarge. He was on the fall 2023 trip with me. Sarge, welcome to the Mighty 790. How you doing, buddy?
Thank you very much. You're doing just great, and an honor to have been honored on the Honor Flight.
There you go. It's easy to say honor when you're talking about the Honor Flight. Okay, so Dwayne, let's start with this. Can you tell us a little bit about your service first, please?
Well, I was in the Army National Guard, North Dakota Army National Guard for 6 years. We were never deployed, but I put in 6 years of training back in 1964 to 70. And I grew up in Hillsborough here, and there was about 6 or 8 of us that signed up to go on the honor flight, and I happened to be very lucky to attend last fall.
And tell me a little bit about who you brought on the honor flight with you.
Well, it was a kind of a quick deal, JJ. They called us on a Thursday, and there had been a cancellation in Grand Forks, so I called my son, Mike Preston, who's a teacher in West Fargo, to see if he could get a day off to go with us on Sunday, Monday. And he could, and we just had a trip of our lifetime with all the other veterans from the region. And all I can say is I can't believe how anything was planned so perfect, on time, so accommodating, and the sights that they showed us. It was an honor.
The Honor Flight Board do a phenomenal job. If you're on that trip and there is any issue, you would never know it because everything runs so incredibly smoothly. Everything from booking into the hotel, from getting on the buses, from organizing times to arranging wheelchairs for those who might get tired during the day. I really was incredibly impressed, and of course, they make it look so seamless.
They do on it. It's just unbelievable. I'm sitting here looking at the beautiful picture on the wall of all the people that had the opportunity to go in October, and it's just priceless memories. And as I said, I've had the opportunity to participate in helping donations on a site for years. I did this year, and I've already been called today thanking for the support. And a message I want to bring, JJ, is if veterans have not signed up, they think they don't have time or don't deserve it, that's all wrong. That's why we're raising the funds. Please go on it. It's a lifetime experience. And there's many, many people in wheelchairs and the volunteers. It was an unbelievable trip. That's all I can say.
It is really important, and that was one of the messages that the Honor Flight wanted to get out for this Giving Hearts Day. Is not only would they be very humbled by getting a donation, but they also want you to talk to those vets. They want you to talk to people who are eligible to go on this trip. They make the paperwork is very easy. I mean, it's not taxing at all. Am I right there, Sarge?
You're so correct on that, and I've been encouraging people in Hillsborough here that I know. They say, well, there's other people more deserving. I said, no, we've all done our time. Sign up and go because it's an honor. And like I said, the things we saw, the things that last in my memory, JJ, when you look at 440,000 crosses in Arlington Cemetery, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and Iwo Jima, if you're not an American, I don't know how you could not enjoy that. And we had the politicians, they came out and shook all our hands. Armstrong and Hovind, I mean, they're busy schedules, but they were proud of us veterans. And I think one of my highlights was the kids from Park Christian School in Moorhead were on their class trip, and they spent the time talking to veterans about the military. It was so impressive that young kids interested in what we had done.
That was one of those moments where I had no idea that was happening. And so seeing those buses, those school buses line up outside of the Iwo Jima Memorial, we're already there, our entire group from the Honor Flight, and to watch those kids come out. And what amazed me the most was those kids weren't out and sitting on their cell phones. They were coming up and they were asking people about their service and asking them what their service meant. It was so amazing to watch that. And I think that's a testament to the Honor Flight, is that it's connecting multiple generations. On our Honor Flight alone, you had people who were in Korea, you had people who were in Vietnam, you had a World War II veteran, and even blending those conflicts together was an opportunity for multiple generations to talk about that, which I think is just amazing.
Well, everything was so thought out and planned. Everything was on time. I mean, the box lunches and the buses, so the 4 buses didn't have to get off. Just the planning that those committees have done, I'm just still in awe and amazed and so supportive of it. And it was a trip of a lifetime, and I'm very honored to have been on it. My son and I really enjoyed it.
And your son gets to bring that back and talk to his students about it, too, which I think is really awesome.
That he did. That he did. And it's the first time he had been there, and it's just an awe when you go through, like I said, all the memorials that they had planned for us to do. Didn't have to wait in any lines. We were honored to be, just everything turned out perfect. The volunteers that they have, all I can say is congratulations. And if you think you're not in good health to go, they have doctors and nurses volunteering to go on the trip, as you told us, JJ. And thank God none of us needed them.
Absolutely right. And Dwayne, as we kind of wrap up this conversation, let's just let the people know this. You said yourself, you're someone who gives to the honor flight. You clearly see the importance of it. So not only were you someone who was on the honor flight, but you're also a donor to it. Let's talk to those people out there who might be just learning about the honor flight. Why should they give so that a stranger, someone they probably have never met, will get this experience in Washington, D.C.?
Well, freedom isn't free, and everybody has paid the price for the freedom we have. So give to something that all of us have given time to so that they can enjoy it and we can keep freedom free. So please, all the veterans and all my friends around the country, help us continue to send the veterans to see a wonderful memorials.
Dwayne Preston, a.k.a. Sarge, a good buddy of mine. Thank you so much for your time today, Dwayne, and thank you for what you do for the honor flight.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Arden Lemley, welcome to the show. How you doing, my man?
Doing great, JJ.
Okay, so you went on the honor flight this last year, right?
Yes,
in
October.
Talk a little bit about the lead up to the honor flight.
Well, it's a tough place to start. But
Tell them how you applied.
The,
Tell them how you applied.
That's Christy,
Right.
by the way. Christy is Arden's daughter.
at the wild race, where the wild race.
You went to the honor flight meat raffle.
Yeah, the meat raffle.
Yeah, we try to make everyone.
And what have you won anything big? 10 pounds of bacon, anything like that? Anything good?
Yes. In fact,
In fact, we won last night.
just last night.
Oh, what am I coming over for? It's grilling season.
I was the first winner, and then the time before, I think I had a cash prize. I won a cash prize end of night. So
okay, so I'll let you pick the tickets next time. I see how it's going. So you're out at the meat raffle, and someone says, "Hey, listen, you got to apply for this thing."
Right. And of course, in my mind, I knew, had some information about it, but I was thinking there were more. The veterans are more deserving of this, especially some of those that saw combat in Vietnam, Korea, and World War II.
And what did the people from the honor flight say when you were trying to put up some roadblocks?
They wouldn't have it. I mean, you served. You basically you volunteered to go into service and fulfill that obligation, and that's what we're looking for. It's wide open. They tried to, of course, World War II veterans. They're getting down to the end of that, and then there was Korea and Vietnam. So even very convincing.
Good, fantastic.
So the minute, it didn't take very much twisting of the arm. I was fired up and filled out that application right away, and I was really surprised that it came back that soon, that we were leaving in the fall.
I mean, they definitely want to get people, and they fill every seat. There's not a seat that goes wasted. Even some people get the call 2 days before and say, hey, listen, we had someone drop out because of health or another emergency. Can you fill it? And luckily, we were able to get every single seat filled on those honor flights. Now I want to talk a little bit about your service, because you've got a pretty interesting story, Arden.
Yes. I enlisted right out of high school. In fact, I went into basic on December 1st of 1959, thinking that I was going to be a medic. But after the basic training got started, and I was about halfway through, they took us, a number of us aside, and took us to a building and had us put a set of
headphones like you're wearing right now,
and mark down different sounds that they projected. And I didn't think anything of it. It was over, and I completed basic training. But at the end of basic training, I had no idea where I was going. So I was kind of held over just waiting, and then I get the word that you're going to be going to Indiana University. Great, I get to go to college. You're going to study Russian, intensive Russian for 9 months. Okay. So I was kind of looking forward to that. It was just quite, excited about it. And it was very interesting because our teachers were native Russian, spoke
really?
very little English. So the first day in class, they had an English professor from the university that translated what the purpose was. Said that we will have to know the alphabet when you come to this your second day in class. You're going to be asked to recite it, and then we spent the rest of the day practicing, going through the alphabet. So it was like that every day. It was intensive. We spoke Russian when we got into conversational little sentences and that. And everything was Tolko Peruski. You had to speak only Russian when you came in.
And there's no similarity between English and the Russian language. I mean, the Latin-based languages like French and Spanish, there are some things that are similar, so you can kind of walk your way through it.
Right.
You are literally learning a second language in 9 months.
Right. Cyrillic. It's part of the Cyrillic language, and I'd never heard of it. Like many of them, there never. What's Cyrillic mean? But that's the basis of the Russian language.
Did the military say this is why we're having you learn Russian?
They didn't give us any information really of what we were going to be doing. We learned that after our 9 months of intensive Russian, that we had a 2-week some leave that we could go home, tell the family that you were going to be assigned so and so here and there, and then we had to return. We went to Goodfellow Air Force Base in San Angelo, Texas, for 3 months, and we learned how to operate radios.
Really?
And tape recorders.
Really? So
that was intensive too.
I'm just amazed at this, and of course, at this whole time, you're learning Russian. And how old are you at the time?
I was 18.
18 years old. So, how much Russian do you retain at this point?
Not very much. It's something that you have to stick with
all the time. That is pretty amazing. And so, when your service is done, what comes next?
After I got the training, then we shipped out to Germany, and we were in what they called the 5K zone. It was 5Ks from the East German border.
Oh wow!
And at that period of time was the corridor going in, and the U.S. had flights going in and out of this corridor with supplies for those people in East Berlin. That's where the Russians they would launch their aircraft, and they would patrol the corridor.
Wow!
On a regular basis. 24 hours a day. If one of those airliners happened to stray outside the corridor, they would lock on with a radar, and they said Zachvat. That meant they were ready to shoot it down.
Really?
That's when the operators had to, alert.
So you're monitoring this the whole time
live
to be able to say, like, this is the radio chatter that's going on.
Right. Wow. And it was. They would do some exercises where you knew they were going to. It was just a practice run, but when they said that they identified an airliner, USA, and they locked on, that meant that airliner had strayed outside that corridor.
Wow.
And they were ready to shoot it down. So it got intense.
And so
many times over in that 18 months that I was on that assignment. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, everyone has an individual story, right? Like, even if you're in the exact same outfit, the experiences are all individual. And this was one that when we were on the honor flight, that's one thing that they never talk about, is the fact that we all lean in and we get to hear everybody's stories. And, at the beginning of the show, I sat and had breakfast with a bunch of guys who talked about where they had their shots on the first day of basic training. And some guys said, I took it in the rear end. And some guys said, well, yeah, they gave me 2 in the arm and I couldn't lift it up all day. And so it was pretty amazing. Now, Christy, I want to talk to you for a second. So your dad is chosen to go on an honor flight, and you get to come along as that companion person. Tell me what it means to you as a family member, getting to see your dad be honored, because they roll out the red carpet for these folks.
Yeah, they do. I was very honored to be chosen to go with him. He asked me to go, not my brother, but me. So I was very lucky. It was a pretty special trip for both of us.
And when you were out there, I mean, you get to meet all these other vets, people who might live 2 blocks away from you, but you never knew it. I think that is something that's truly unique about the honor flight as well.
Yeah,
as
we
you
met
make lifelong friends.
A man from Davenport, David.
Right.
And he comes with us to the meat raffle too.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah. So.
And he was
in the
Air Force. He was the same. He
Crypto.
did the same type of monitoring, only it was crypto.
Really?
It was signal, like where we were voice intercept. He was in a cryptologist type. We had that in common. We were both monitoring the enemy, one with voice and the other through crypto.
Get you two in a room, and I bet you could really tell some stories, don't you think?
We have.
Yeah, I believe that. Christy, out there, someone's listening right now, and their dad served, and it's time to sign that person up. What would you tell to those people who it's time to get that loved one to sign up?
Oh, yeah, I would highly encourage it. It's a very special offer that you get to do. It's unforgettable. It's just very humbling experience, and just so glad that we had the opportunity to do that.
That's awesome. That I want to go back.
With his
and
granddaughter.
Go back to the Watson Memorials. That's
sharing that for the next generation is incredibly important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Arden, Christy, thank you so much for your time today. We're raising money for the Veterans Honor Flight of North Dakota, Minnesota.